Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We review anything and everything. And today we're actually going to get into a couple of different reviews at one time. Don't mind that the betas are kind of like going at each other at the moment. They're a couple. So this is what they do. So this review is about some of the plants inside the tank, along with just having betas as a pet. So first I want to start with the fact that I got these betas. I wanted to have some pets for my kids, some fish, and I went with, this was the male beta, the pink one, and then later I got the red one, which is the female beta. Now, there were a couple other fish inside the tank that were just more kind of generic, closer to goldfish. They weren't goldfish, but on that kind of level of like generic type of fish, for lack of a better word. I don't remember which ones they were because I didn't purchase them. They didn't end up living off because this is a non-filtered tank. I even had a catfish that didn't make it either, so to clean the bottom. So the only thing I had in that beginning stage was just this fern, which now is put to the corner because I got a lot of other plants. Now, what I realized and found out from having beta, so there's a little tip for any of you guys who are trying to have beta and you don't want to have a filtered based tank. The pet store told me that maybe there wasn't enough oxygen in the tank, which I knew I was planning on getting some more plants, but I didn't grab them in time. And I did try to use some outside plants, but most of them didn't survive well, though I've got one weed, that long stem is like kind of a weed plant from outside that actually has been surviving, but this came way later on before I didn't really have any plants inside there. Now, the betas survived, and after I spoke to someone, one of the reps at the pet store, what I was informed is that betas actually breathe air. They're able to go up to the surface, gobble up air, and so they can do it both ways, either breathe under the water or breathe air by gobbling from up top. So they don't need the oxygen levels to be very good. And what I was told is that the oxygen levels for the other fish probably wasn't that well, which is why they died off. Now, during that same time frame, I had like a little lobster, which is smaller than a crayfish, but they called it a lobster. That didn't have any problem either. So fast forward, the two betas ended up having, setting up eggs. I didn't even know what it was. There was bubbles at the tank, and I just said, what is that? A little kind of bubble clutch or a bubble nest. I had to look it up, and then I found out that they were in the process of having babies. So they ended up having a whole bunch of babies inside the tank, at which point, now I already had those bowls as plants set up before they had the babies. And that's one thing. I'm going to put the link in the description for Amazon. Those ones inside the bowls are called, I know I'm going to get this kind of butchered, sword, Echinodorus, Bleheri. And I'm going to put the description inside the, the name in the description. I'm sorry, I butchered it. There's one of the babies swimming around. But those, now this was before the babies were inside the tank. I wanted to put dirt in, but I didn't want to just throw dirt in because I didn't want it to be everywhere. I didn't want to put that much dirt in. And obviously you'd have to put a whole lot of dirt to align the bottom if you were going to try to do that. So instead I said, let me get some plastic bowls, obviously the plastic because it's going to be on the water. And then I had put some dirt in them from outside, regular outside dirt. I put just some really hot water in it so it would kill whatever's in it. And then I put those plants in them. It came with a set of 3, and I put them inside the bowls. And then that way, after they were already submerged in water beforehand for the dirt, the water already soaked into the dirt. There goes the little lobster. Looks kind of like a crayfish. And so those plants, after I planted them and then put it in, though some of the dirt kind of got into the floating dirt kind of got all around into the water, but it wasn't much. It made it a little cloudy. Afterwards, it settled and it wasn't a problem. So I thought that was a great technique, and you can use that technique if you want to get dirt into your tank if you already have your tank set up. Now, obviously you can see my tank, though it's clear and you can see through it, does have almost a golden tint to it. That's going to come from having dirt in it. So this is kind of like this simple way of you setting up with dirt. So if you're someone who's trying to just be natural and you're not trying to go over the top with things, you can still have a clean tank, clear, and don't think of it like, oh, it's going to be super messy, super dirty, all that other kind of stuff. Obviously, you can see here, I didn't do there's no filtration or anything like that. And I know the plants are definitely helping. Now, after that, just recently, actually a couple days ago, I had got these other plants, and I'm going to throw a link in the description for them. Jungle Val is what they say for short, but the full name is Jungle Vallisneria, and I hope I pronounced that right. That came with 6. I'm going to throw a link in the description where you can purchase it on Amazon. Now, I jumped on that because I seen a video where it says that's a very fast growing plant. Now that's this one right here and this one over here. And I don't know if you can see, but since putting it in, they float. And I'm going to tell you why I had trouble with getting them, buried underneath the dirt. But you can see here, I just recently moved this one over to this corner because it started floating. So I wanted to grab hold of some of this moss. That little green piece coming down here was an extension of it. So what happens is this plant likes to take an extension of itself, shoot it to the side, almost like a kind of spiderweb plant, and then just keep growing more. This one already started doing the same, but it's a little hard to see. You see that green piece coming down like that? That's part of it. Because I don't want to get it mixed up with the plant. The back of it, that was from my garden. That one from the garden was a tester to see if that will work. But now I use that one as a base to hold the jungle val because it was floating off. Now, the reason why the jungle val was floating, and these ones actually just came inside like the package that I got, but I really don't know what those are because the seller, I guess, just threw them in as extra. But the jungle val, I didn't have a chance to bury it into the dirt because I have the baby bettas at this point. And so I didn't want to drain out the water and put them in. So I put them in with my hands and I tried to get them in as deep as I could, but I don't really have any deep spaces to go. I didn't want them to overtake the bowls either. So I tried to put them kind of near the bowls and some of them kind of in some of the dirt that's on the floor, which is, not a lot, but it wasn't able to stay down there. So eventually I will correct those once the babies get a little bigger. Then I'll be able to correct those. But in the meantime, I didn't want to do nothing too crazy because I know I have the babies in there. I can't drain out the water because I don't want to lose any of them. So those seems the way they're growing. I could definitely see them being the type of plant where, and when I did the research on them, that they grow crazy. They'll grow a lot. So if you want to get a plant that is just going to go crazy, get the jungle val, just to kind of get you just almost a garden inside your fish tank. As far as, like I said, the bettas, I think they're great fish. They're very durable in terms of their survival capabilities because they do not require a very oxygenated tank. Now, my tank, I'm sure, has more oxygen in it now than it did prior, but because I have more plants in it now. But at the same time, they're able to survive that whole process because they're able to get air from the top. So they make a great first pet, a great first fish, and I definitely recommend them. When it came to the whole process of them having kids, having the babies, just have the 2 inside there. If you're gonna have one with a whole bunch of other ones, don't, because they'll start eating the baby. They call him fry, but the baby betta. Now the male will do this job where he protects the babies. If they fall from the bubble nest, he'll go and pick them up and bring them back to the top surface. So it works very well. I personally didn't end up removing the female, even though they sometimes suggest that, but I didn't, and I just kind of let it be all natural. I felt there's enough room inside the tank for them to do their thing. Sometimes the female will hide, but for the most part, there hasn't been a problem. So I definitely recommend them as a fish to get. And now you see the female's chasing the male, where at one point the male is chasing the female, and they go back and forth with who's the dominant one and who's not. So yes. This bowl here, I just want to also make note, for whatever reason, one day when I was home, it ended up flipping over, and I don't know why, if it was just a lot of oxygen was in it, air bubbles left from when I set it up, and maybe that caused it to kind of like flip over. But that's why a lot of dirt ended up getting on the floor. So, if you end up doing that technique I did, just try to make sure, obviously I would say in the future, start with that technique before you actually, set up your tank first. But if you already set up your tank, you could do it like I did. And you won't really have any problems. It just might get a little messy. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next video.